which team winning today would spell greater trouble for the U.S.? And Stu tried to make a case for England, and I get it because we've all seen on the men's side the monolith that the Premier League has become, and you worry that if England were to follow up a Euro triumph by winning the World Cup, that would spur on even more spending on the part of the English clubs on the women's side, and so that could lead England to be sort of the center of the women's game, wrestle that away from the United States. But I argued for Spain because you take a step back and you think the fact that they've won the under-20 and under-17 World Cups last year, they now win the Senior World Cup. Barcelona just won the UEFA Champions League title. There's circumstances in which they won this tournament with the mutiny and having so many of their best players not even here and still being able to play the way they did. And the best player in the world, Alexi Lalas, reduced to a role player because of injury. I just think we're entering a scary phase where this country could just take the women's game to a place where nobody else can keep up with them, and this could be a dynasty. Am I overreacting to that?
No, I don't think you're overreacting to that. I mean, I don't think this is a Chicken Little type of situation. And this is again from a red, white, and blue perspective. You know, looking at it through the U.S. Women's National Team. The U.S. Women's National Team could use the next 4 years and come back in 2027 and win the World Cup. Okay, they have enough talent. I think they have enough resources to be able to do that. And Carly Lloyd was, I think, adamant tonight on our broadcast talking about how this isn't about because they don't have enough coaches or they don't have fields or they don't have, you know, the state-of-the-art type of technology and resources to be better. That's not the case. But I am interested in when people do see this, do they fight fire with fire? Do you know, whether it's the U.S. or anybody else, do they look at what Spain has done in the way that they play and try to emulate that, or say, you know what, that's not in our DNA, that's not something that we can do, and we're going to find a different way to break that down, either through, you know, physical intimidation or speed or just being, you know, incredibly efficient on set pieces or whatever it ends up being, because they can't do that type of possession. Because I think, and maybe it's just in the women's game, the way that I see it, I think if there was an emphasis much more on the possession of the ball, I think others could emulate that. And it's not that the physical nature that the U.S., by the way, has capitalized on now for multiple decades, it's not that that can't be important and that can't combat it. But I'll be interested to see if other countries look to Spain and say, we got to find a way from a technical perspective to get better with the ball.
Yeah, what we saw on the men's side, this Spanish triumph reminds me a lot of the Euro 2008 men's triumph under Luis Aragonés, which kind of set off that whole Spanish era. And what you started to see is that other countries borrowed some elements of the way Spain played, but they tailored it to their personnel. So it wasn't exactly the same, but you could see there was more playing out of the back, more technical central midfielders. So I do think this Spanish team is going to have some influence in the women's game and the way the other top teams play, but allowing for the fact that each country is still going to have its own sort of peculiarities based on the players that they produce.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody's saying that the United States women's national team should be like Spain. However, I will say this. At no time, even during their apex, and the heights of the U.S. women's national team winning World Cups and being the best in the world, at no time did they play like this.
And actually, Julie Foudy had a great tweet about that. Somebody tweeted, oh, watching this Spain team is frustrating because this is how the U.S. women used to play. And Julie Foudy responded to it. He's like, actually, we never played like this.
Julie's absolutely right. And she was, by the way, there. And again, that doesn't mean that they didn't play with quality. That doesn't mean that they weren't entertaining. But the way in which they went about winning and being successful and being the best in the world was just very, very different. And that was in their DNA at the time going forward. All right. So, and again, to your point, you know, they're missing potentially half of a team here. So it boggles the mind the talent that they do have. Pute is still not even at her best. And yet they still find a way, you know, playing with a teenager up top, and they still find a way to win the World Cup. You do think that though from a Spanish perspective, this is the start of something big. This is not just a aberration or an anomaly type of thing.
I do, absolutely.
Okay.